Now it's time for On Point, where we speak to experts to delve deeper into the biggest news stories in the spotlight right now. South Korea's president-elect Yoon Suk-yeol has set up his presidential transition committee, as we just heard in our Yoon's report there. It is tasked with laying the groundwork for his incoming administration and setting the agenda for his single 5-year term as the country's leader. Yoon has already named a number of people that will fill senior positions. Among them is the committee's chairman, Ahn Cheol-soo, who relinquished his candidacy in the presidential election to throw his support behind Yoon, and whose People's Party will merge with Yoon's People Power Party.
There are also 3 subcommittees, one for national unity, the core vision of the Yoon administration, another for pandemic recovery, and the third for boosting regional growth. Ahn Cheol-soo will take full control of the committee tasked with overseeing South Korea's recovery from COVID-19. For more on what we can expect between now and Inauguration Day, we connect to Professor Song Se-ryun from Kyunghee University. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning.
So firstly, we'd like your opinion on Yoon's decision to install Ahn as the head of the transition committee. Do you expect this was part of the deal when Ahn agreed to drop out of the election? And what position do you expect Ahn to get in Yoon's administration?
Well, although the exact languages of the deal is not known, but we do know that there is a certain agreement after relinquishing of his candidacy. The word joint government was used by Yoon, and that points to the direction where Ahn Cheol-soo is supposed to assume an important role in the upcoming government. So that's why the speculation is rampant that Ahn will be at least on the short list of a prime minister. Although there might be other ways to fulfill their promise, but one thing for sure is that there will be an intense politicking within the transition committee, and because of the very close nature of the election, probably Ahn has to at least show himself is capable of assuming a very important position in the transition committee.
Yeah, I think the assumption is, considering he dropped out, that he would ask for a very high-level job within the administration. So people are musing that it possibly would be prime minister. Now, we didn't have this kind of presidential transition committee before when President Moon came in, because, of course, that was under extraordinary circumstances, considering what happened to the president before him. But can you briefly walk us through what these kind of committees are tasked with between Election Day and Inauguration Day?
Right. The Presidential Transition Act provides what can be done and what needs to be done before the new president assumes his office. 24 committee members supposedly man the transition committee, which is essentially a government getting ready to take over. So they will be looking at the blueprint of the policies and who should man the particular tasks they set out, and also how the government organization needs to be tweaked. So although the committee members are 24 as provided by the law, the overall members coming from the government, ministries, and manning the advisor positions in all those will probably number about 200 or so. So they are getting close to becoming kind of a shadow government as the takeover date comes along, and they will be supposedly ready to take over and start governing.
But Professor, when Yoon takes office, the Liberal Democratic Party will still have a majority in South Korea's National Assembly. So what kind of obstacles do you expect Yoon to face because of this? And in terms of filling the cabinet, which positions can he fill without legislative approval?
Well, filling the government post will be a somewhat daunting task because of the overall massive opposition party. Korean presidents have the power to appoint thousands of posts, but important posts like the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Constitutional Court, Prime Minister, Chairman of the Board of the Audit and Inspection, those need the consent of the National Assembly. So those will be closely watched. But other posts, although they will hold the confirmation hearing, the cabinet posts like ministers, the president can go ahead and appoint them. Of course, it is always a good idea to get the consent or get the approval from the National Assembly members. But because the cabinet members are the core members that he will be working with, he at least has the power to appoint them and go ahead and appoint them even with some opposition from the National Assembly members. I think that the bigger picture is that because of the massive opposition party, the president, soon-to-be President Yoon, should, and as rightly so, focus on how to work well with the opposition, and that is reflected in one of the committees in the transition committee to focus on how to work well with the opposition.
Yeah, I think there's also a little bit of a balancing act for the Democratic Party as well. They don't want to be seen to be overdoing it in opposing every single candidate Yoon puts forward. Yoon is really going to face a whole slew of really daunting international and domestic issues when he takes office in May. But I wanted to focus on domestic issues because the country is having a tough time right now. Which of his pledges do you think that he will want to prioritize in the early days of his presidency? And how successful of a president do you think he'll be?
Well, that's a very difficult question, but we probably know what he will focus on because he will focus on key issues that were brought up in the campaigns, which are economy and also pandemic issues. And also, if you look at the committees that he named, we can see that there is a not only the pandemic issues, but national unity and also the regional development special committees. So those will be, I think, the focus. Whether he will be successful or not, that is a very difficult question. But I think that he is putting a right people on this at least because he's been vetted in the debates, and we can see that the Ahn Cheol-soo is at least has some good ideas about it, and also the other members in that party has been gunning for this kind of opportunity for a long time. So at this point, I cannot really predict it, but all I can do is be hopeful that the new team will come and reflect upon the failures and success of the previous administration and put a good idea onto the policies.
Let's hope for that. Thank you so much, Professor Song, for your insights. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.